Here's my mic, and I'll start my video by talking about professionalism in the professional world. And at some point, I'm going to say something worth saying, and it will be purely by accident. But hopefully, in the future, I will be able to actually see that that thing was worth saying. And I'll make a clip. And I'll share that thing I said with the whole world. Well, everything you say on Instagram, you're sharing with the whole world. The paradox of that is really that it's not the whole world that will see what you're saying. And I don't think you even really need the whole world to see you. In fact, if one person can see you well, that's good enough. These last few weeks I've been making videos, and despite the fact that nobody watches these videos, my friend watching these videos gives me the satisfaction that I was searching for when I posted these videos. It's so wonderful to be understood. And that's what you're searching for, I think, when you post videos. When you go create some artwork, you're going on a little journey, you know. As far as you know, everybody's within the castle walls, and art takes you a little while, a little distance outside those castle walls. And when you show other people, it's like the castle walls start to expand a little bit to protect you out there in the wilderness. And then the castle grows and grows. You know, arguably, there's a certain degree of selfishness, you know. Maybe the castle walls don't need to be so big. People have wonder and curiosity, so they take a step outside those castle walls, and the castle has to follow them to make sure they don't get hurt. I have some wonder, and I share my thoughts with other people, and I want those castle walls to expand a little bit. And what I mean by castle walls really is language. The language that I can use with other people and feel like it will have some meaning to them. That I'm not just talking nonsense. You know? Um, just hope that my friend will understand what I'm talking about in my video. But I think I've lost touch a little bit. It's hard to have that feeling. Well, in any case, I think I just need to wait. The answer to most things really is just to wait a little while. Wait a little while and make the video again. A video of you talking. I was feeling like it was so ridiculous that I had the sense that it was in any way valuable to somebody else that I come up and I start talking. And I think the reason for that is that I've crossed a certain line. When I was sharing my writing before, the purpose was that I wanted to have somebody follow me into the forest a little while. But when then you look and you see that people won't view your video if you do that. It makes you think, well, I'll make all these changes, and now I'm sitting here in front of a tripod. And this is very different. I'm not sharing my art here. And I think there's a certain painfulness to art, a certain selfishness. You you always feel like as an artist you're dealing with truth, and that the truth is so it, it's not valuable per se. It goes beyond value. It goes beyond any system. It is at the core of feeling good, feeling the freedom of your own body. And when you give other people some truth, you are in some way freeing up their body. Maybe not now, but some other point. Some other time. But there are people who live in all time. They live in all places at once. And when you give them any degree of truth, they feel it. No matter where they're at in their life, they feel it. It's very important that. And that's where you can get a sense of your own value as an artist. And when you start to deal with the truth, you can feed those people. But in a more practical sense, people who are dealing with momentary concerns and various pursuits, things. You can see that the truth that you have stumbled upon, have dug out, it has nothing to do with their life. They don't know how to use it, what to do with it, which is fine. But at the same time, it so becomes a very selfish act to share your art. And I've been I've really I think the point of all of this these few weeks of just making videos, the point of it for me really has been to understand what it means to share your art. I mean, all my life I tried to share my art, and I got so many different mixed reactions. I think it would be wonderful if I could just see what it all meant. Different reactions made me feel different things. Always I was speechless. Always I didn't know how to take things. I felt strange every time, even when things made me feel good. I felt good with a sort of nervous energy. I wasn't looking for a response, so much so as a hint of understanding. You know, the act of sharing your art also implies the act of receiving the art. And I think most of these things are false. They are not false because somebody has clouded the eyes, but because who you are must be seen. And so to make it an act, to say, I'm going to share my art, to make it an act is to say that it's more than just to exist. And the problem is both sides. To see somebody is more than to simply exist. Because seeing and being seen is existence. There isn't an act of being seen, just as there isn't an act of seeing. It's a confusion. And there could be any number of reasons for that confusion. There are so many measures of controlling that confusion. But at the end of the day, it's a confusion. But it's a confusion that I've always wanted to understand. And I guess my point is that there isn't anything to understand because it's just a confusion. There was something that I stumbled upon, uh, something very meaningful about how art could matter, or how art could be shared. You know, I stumbled upon in the last few weeks an act of being seen that was felt legitimate. That wasn't, you know, and that was the voice. And what I really discovered was that there are voices in our head when we write. There are ways of speaking about things And that the handwriting is more like an odd approximation of that voice, of the way the language occurs to us, and that the voice can actually capture the way that our thoughts occur to us. And that if you can make an act, you could make an act out of sharing with people what it is you've realized by capturing the way you realized it, the way it occurred to you. And that seemed to me the closest thing to sharing the experience of the art. Things occur to you through a voice, through the consciousness. And then you reproduce that voice so that other people can have that occur to you as well, occur to them as well. But if anything, I think that's an I'm not so sure. I wanted to talk about consciousness. Consciousness and language are sort of hand in hand. When people talk about consciousness, they're also talking about unconsciousness. And what's the difference? Well, I think the difference is that consciousness is what you can put into a language. And that there's a sort of relationship between the consciousness and consciousness based on this language. And so how do you explain the two? Well, I think the consciousness is the unconsciousness as well, but it's the unconsciousness that has been put through that symbology. So let's say you say to somebody, I'm happy, right? Now, whatever it is that you expressed, the complicated emotions that you expressed, they're collapsed into a view. You have said you're happy. And that transforms the unconsciousness that you expressed. And what is unconscious and what is conscious are oftentimes opposites. But they're not opposites in the surface, on the surface. It's something more fundamental. You've transformed being into an act. The consciousness is a sort of act. Not really, I guess. The consciousness is something that will be an act, will be made into an act. You have all these complicated emotions, and they might be transformed into the act of simply telling somebody that you're happy. And so you tell people, what is it? inside, and then the conscious voice either grows or diminishes. Paradoxically, if you can speak truthfully, the consciousness doesn't disturb the unconscious. So consciousness is it is it is the reception of reality that has, as a part of reality itself, the symbols that represent it. And what I mean by that is the unconscious is this very complicated thing, but it is a image of the world. Now the the logic of that image isn't really color per se. It's made up of sensations, really. And when you can recognize within the world something that reflects that image, you develop a sort of consciousness. When you can when you can recognize that the other wants expression, and so as a part of the reality, there is a representation of what is in the past, which is to say, what is in your mind, the sensations, and so on. And the consciousness, you might say, is a focus on those representations. And the reason that those representations are important is that they are desired by the other. So you focus on those representations, on the desires of the other. And the consciousness grows to create more representations out of the old ones. And that's how language is sort of like consciousness. But consciousness is not the language itself, it's the focus on the language. It's to focus on what represents what's within. And I think that people have different kinds of consciousnesses. Because what's within also is different. Different in major ways. Even with language, for example. Language can be something that truly represents the way you see the world, or it can represent your desire for something in the world. For something to change. Maybe they want more money, they want more anything. And as a result, their consciousness is a focus on that desire for money. And the language might be the best representation of their desire for money. But I will stop there and maybe I'll cut up what I said.